Good evening. It's Thursday, the 25th of September, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Regional unrest. Ladakh protests escalate violently after 4 people killed in statehood demonstrations. Border closure. Israel closes strategic West Bank Jordan crossing as regional tensions rise. Sports community. Heartwarming message from 80-year-old softball teammate goes viral, inspiring millions of fans.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Prithika Sivakumar.
Good evening once again. Residents in India's Himalayan region of Ladakh condemned deadly clashes today after at least 4 people were killed during protests demanding special local status. Police fired on mobs that attacked government offices, marking a violent escalation in a region historically known for peaceful demonstrations since its autonomy was revoked in 2019.
The unrest erupted in Leh district as protesters led by the activist Sonam Wangchuk demanded the restoration of special status to safeguard tribal rights and allow elected local councils. Over the past 5 years, demonstrations in the Buddhist-Muslim enclave have been largely peaceful, making the recent violence a rare and alarming development. According to India's Home Ministry, police resorted to firing after mobs set ablaze a political party office and a police vehicle, leaving at least 4 dead. Damaged cars and shattered windows littered the streets, and local leaders expressed shock at the escalation, questioning the orders to open fire. Ladakh lost its autonomous status in 2019 when Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government reorganized the former state of Jammu and Kashmir. The region's unique cultural and religious makeup, combined with its strategic location bordering China, has made political changes particularly sensitive, fueling long-standing demands for local representation and protections for tribal communities.
At the United Nations General Assembly, China unveiled new climate goals, joining several countries in pledging stronger action on emissions. The announcement included a subtle rebuke of US President Donald Trump's climate stance, delivered just a day after his remarks dismissing international efforts to combat global warming.
China led several countries in announcing new climate plans on Wednesday at a summit on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Chinese President Xi Jinping said in a live video message from Beijing that by 2035 his country would cut its greenhouse gas emissions by 7 to 10% from its peak. While less than many observers had hoped, China's reduction target marked the first time the world's biggest emitter pledged a cut in emissions, rather than just limiting their growth. Xi also appeared to call out the United States, the world's biggest historical greenhouse gas emitter and second biggest current emitter behind China. Xi said that while some countries had moved away from the global clean energy transition and the goals of the 2015 Paris Agreement on climate change, the international community should remain on track. The 10-year-old agreement aims to prevent global temperatures from rising beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius through national climate plans.
It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion.
Xi's comments came a day after U.S. President Donald Trump used his UN General Assembly speech to reject climate change. Trump went on to call scientists stupid and to criticize EU members and China for embracing clean energy technologies. Shortly after returning to office earlier this year, he ordered a second withdrawal by Washington from the Paris Treaty. And on Wednesday, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, who hosted the climate summit, called on all countries that are party to the Paris Agreement to set new, more ambitious plans for the next decade.
Now, we need new plans for 2035 that go much further and much faster.
Despite pressure for significant new climate commitments ahead of this year's COP30 summit in Brazil, Wednesday's announcements failed to impress environmentalists. Green groups and observers said pledges by some of the world's biggest economies fell well short of where they should be in emissions reductions. Many had been hoping that China would seize on the U.S. retreat as a moment to announce a reduction target of at least 30% to stay in line with its past goal of net zero emissions by 2060.
Hong Kong International Airport resumed flights today after a 36-hour closure caused by Super Typhoon Ragasa, the world's most powerful tropical cyclone this year. Travelers scrambled to adjust planes as runways reopened. Authorities warned of ongoing disruptions even as the storm moved on, highlighting the continuing impact on travel and logistics.
Flights had been suspended since Tuesday evening as authorities prepared for the typhoon's heavy rainfall and destructive winds. The government advised residents to stay indoors while airport staff worked to secure equipment and clear debris. The suspension left thousands of travelers stranded, delaying both domestic and international flights. By today morning, all 3 runways were operational, with airlines gradually resuming services. Passengers like Wong traveling to Taipei described the disruption as a major inconvenience, having to rearrange schedules and accommodations. Airport officials emphasized safety as the primary concern, ensuring that flights only resumed under secure conditions. The cyclone, after battering Hong Kong, moved on to southern China, making landfall in Yangjiang. Meteorologists warned of potential flooding and strong winds in the region, and authorities continue monitoring the situation. The episode underscores the vulnerability of major transport hubs to extreme weather and the importance of emergency preparedness.
At the United Nations General Assembly, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung held bilateral talks with Italian and Polish leaders seeking to strengthen cooperation in defense and technology. While Lee emphasized AI and defense ties with Italy, discussions with Poland focused on tanks and submarines. A planned meeting with France was postponed.
President Lee Jae-myung met Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni yesterday, where the two leaders underscored the importance of advancing their strategic partnership. Lee called for stronger collaboration in artificial intelligence and the defense industry, while Meloni expressed interest in visiting South Korea and extended an invitation for Lee to visit Italy. Lee also held talks with Polish President Karol Nawrocki, with defense once again at the center of discussions. Both sides agreed to expand cooperation in tank production, while Lee expressed hopes of deepening collaboration of Poland's plans to acquire new submarines, signaling Seoul's growing role as a defense exporter. However, not all planned diplomacy went ahead. A scheduled meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron was cancelled due to timing conflicts. Despite the setbacks, Seoul's outreach at the UN reflects its broader aim of securing partnerships in defense and high-tech industries, while positioning itself as a reliable partner in Europe.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. Israel has indefinitely closed the Allenby Bridge, the key crossing between the West Bank and Jordan. The shutdown, prompted by a recent attack on Israeli soldiers, has left Palestinians facing severe disruptions, blocking travel, trade, and even access to critical medical care, their only international route outside Israel.
It's seen as a vital crossing between the West Bank and Jordan. But now Israel has announced the Allenby or King Hussein Bridge will be closed indefinitely. It's a move that's already having an impact.
This is the only way out from the West Bank for all cities. If it closes one day, the bridge will be so crowded and it takes 2 to 3 days to get things back to normal. That's only one day of closure. What about now? It closing indefinitely is a big problem.
It has a moral and financial impact. We have checkpoints, and the work is not that active due to checkpoints. There are people who go for treatment in Jordan. The closing of the bridge has an effect on so many things.
The Allenby crossing is used to transport commercial goods between Jordan and the West Bank. It also serves as a gateway for Palestinians who wish to travel abroad from the area without going through Israel. The crossing has largely been closed off since last week after a Jordanian truck driver stabbed and shot 2 Israeli soldiers. The latest move to cut off the West Bank comes after France and a host of Western nations recognized a Palestinian state, a development which for now hasn't shifted the reality on the ground.
In Colombia, relief and celebration after 23 gold miners trapped underground for nearly 2 days were brought safely to the surface. The dramatic rescue in Segovia followed a collapse at the mine's entrance. Officials say coordinated efforts, steady communication, and emergency support ensured all miners survived in good condition.
The successful rescue unfolded in Segovia, a town in Colombia's Antioquia region, where gold mining is a vital industry but often carries serious risks. The collapse occurred on the 23rd of September at the mine's main entrance, trapping 23 workers some 15 meters inside. Swift mobilization by local authorities, supported by Canadian multinational Ares Mining, ensured a coordinated operation that lasted nearly 48 hours. Throughout the ordeal, rescuers maintained communication with the miners, a critical factor that prevented panic and sustained morale. Food and water were sent underground while emergency crews worked tirelessly to clear debris. Since we had communication, it gave us lots of peace of mind, said rescued miner Hector Lopera, noting that reassurance from above made survival possible. The miners, many visibly emotional upon emerging, expressed gratitude to both rescue teams and their families who waited anxiously outside the site. Officials confirmed that all miners were in good condition, with Colombia's National Mining Agency pledging to review safety protocols to prevent similar incidents in the future.
Syria's new President Ahmed al-Shara addressed the United Nations General Assembly today, the country's first leader to do so in nearly 6 decades. The speech comes as Damascus seeks to rebuild after years of conflict and to restore international ties following prolonged global isolation.
It's been a busy couple of days for Syria's new leader, as he continues his bid to get his country back into the international fold and distance himself from his terrorist past. Ahmed al-Shara, who less than a year ago overthrew Bashar al-Assad with a lightning insurgent offensive, is now urging the US to help the country emerge from war and crisis by removing the remaining long-imposed sanctions on Syria after it eased many over the summer.
We have a major task ahead of us to build the economy. Syrians are a people that love work, and they have diverse expertise. So please don't worry about them. Lift the sanctions and you'll see results.
But there's still a long way to go. After nearly 15 years of war, the country is deeply divided. In Syria's northeast, Kurdish forces are resisting integration into the state. Violence targeting the Alawite minority has erupted in the west and in the south against the Druze, some of whom are now calling for independence. Meanwhile, Israel is taking advantage of the chaos to seize more land in the Golan Heights. The two countries are in talks, but al-Shara has expressed concern that Israel is stalling a de-escalation agreement, saying that since he took power, Israel has carried out more than 1,000 strikes and more than 400 ground incursions in Syria.
We are not the ones creating problems for Israel. We are scared of Israel, not the other way round.
Al-Shara is also preparing to establish the first parliament since Assad was toppled. A milestone in the transition, but one that has stirred new concerns about political inclusivity. Not everyone will be allowed to vote on October 5th, as authorities have opted for an electoral college system rather than universal suffrage.
I think the upcoming People's Assembly is being formed in an acceptable way for a transitional phase and not a permanent state. At this stage, it's difficult to hold popular elections due to the loss of documents, and half the population is outside Syria.
2/3 of parliament will be elected by electoral colleges, while al-Shara will appoint the remaining third.
In a landmark moment, leaders of Denmark and Greenland issued a formal apology for decades of forced contraception imposed on indigenous women. Thousands were subjected to traumatic procedures, including involuntary IUD insertions, under policies now acknowledged as deeply harmful and unjust to Greenland's Inuit population.
For the Danish Prime Minister, it's a second step in the reconciliation process. Between Denmark and the women in Greenland they forced to undergo contraception. Now she's apologising in person.
Today, there is only one right thing to say to you. Sorry. Sorry for the injustice that was committed against you because you were Greenlanders. Sorry for what was taken from you and for the pain it caused. On behalf of Denmark, sorry.
Mette Frederiksen has broken with the tradition of her predecessors, who insisted Denmark had no reason to apologise, and said it's an important marking of a dark chapter in our shared history. For decades from the 1960s, Danish authorities forced around half of Inuit women of childbearing age to wear a contraceptive coil or IUD without their consent. The aim was to limit Greenland's Inuit population growth. Many developed physical or psychological problems as a result, or, like Katrine, were left sterile.
Of course, I'm thinking about all the women who were treated like I was, who are also without children. But I'm grateful that they admit what they did, that they made a mistake and accepted to apologize.
Denmark has announced the creation of a reconciliation fund to compensate the victims, as well as other Greenlanders who suffered discrimination because of their Inuit heritage. The scandal is one of several tainting Denmark's ties to Greenland, including forced adoptions and removal of Inuit children from their families. Reconciliation efforts have stepped up as Donald Trump has tried to exploit divisions between Denmark and Greenland, the mineral-rich territory he has said he wants to take over.
Uganda's long-serving leader, President Yoweri Museveni, has been cleared by the Electoral Commission to run for re-election next year. The 80-year-old has ruled the East African nation for nearly 4 decades, and another victory could see his presidency extend close to half a century, which sparks debate across Uganda.
Uganda's Electoral Commission on Tuesday cleared octogenarian President Yoweri Museveni to seek re-election. He is one of Africa's longest ruling leaders, and the vote, to be held early next year, could extend his presidency to nearly half a century. And that's despite Museveni saying when he took over in 1986 that the problem facing Africa was leaders who want to overstay in power. The former rebel has been credited with stabilising Uganda, promoting economic growth and combating HIV/AIDS. But his critics denounced the government's suppression of political opponents, human rights abuses and corruption scandals. Museveni's was the first candidacy approved by Uganda's election body, which evaluates whether those seeking office meet the legal requirements.
Nomination exercise for presidential candidate is already in shambles.
However, Ugandan lawyer Sarah Barite said despite having all the time to verify, the process had crashed just 2 days before nominations.
Either they are incompetent or they want to rig people out of the process.
Museveni and his government have amended the constitution twice to remove age and term limits, allowing him to remain in office.
We are the country, we are the future, we are the change we badly need.
The election is likely to see him face off once again against his much younger chief rival, Bobi Wine. He is a singer, real name Robert Chagulanyi, who leveraged his pop stardom to build a large support base among young voters.
Uganda.
Museveni defeated Wine in 2021 by a wide margin, though the latter said his victory was stolen through ballot stuffing, intimidation by security forces, and other irregularities.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. 80-year-old Nelson Bradbury has gone viral after a heartfelt text to his teammates touched millions on TikTok. His message, thanking younger players for their support and calling them his reason to get out of bed, is inspiring audiences worldwide.
In many ways, Nelson Bradbury is in a league of his own. He's 80, but instead of counting candles, he's counting on his teammates.
They give me friendship. They give me respect.
Nelson is the oldest member of an adult softball league team in Newfoundland, Canada. Last week, when he woke up at 2 a.m., the night before a big game, he texted the group, writing, "I really appreciate the way you guys treat me as an equal and not just an old fart," adding, "It's all of you who keep me going and give me the reason to get out of bed in the morning." When his teammates woke up, the messages started pouring in.
He thinks that, he needs us more than we need him. He's probably got it backwards.
Sam Evans, a teammate's wife, then posted it on TikTok, getting millions of views.
To have men speak to other men this way, and an 80-year-old man at that, is just amazing.
Proving that in the game of life, playing with kindness always wins.
Nobody can buy what I've got.
At just 10 years old, Bodhana Sivanandan has made history. The British chess prodigy, still needing a booster seat to reach the board, has become the youngest ever female international master, a remarkable milestone capturing global attention and inspiring young players across the world.
At just 10 years old, Bodhana Sivanandan is so small she needs a booster seat to see the board. But that hasn't stopped her from becoming a giant of global chess. The fifth grader from the UK regularly trounces adult champions decades her senior and is now the youngest ever female international master, the game's second highest rank.
I try kind of not to worry about factors like that, and I just try and focus on the board and play the boards.
When Derana was just 5, her father brought home a second-hand chess set.
I was quite interested in the pieces and I wanted to use them as like toys to play with.
Within weeks, she was beating her dad, learning to master the game not from a coach, but from lessons on YouTube. And today, videos of her defeating veteran players regularly go viral.
She's just beaten me, and I'm an ex-British champion.
Experts say this may be the start of an all-time great chess career.
No, because I just try and like enjoy chess as a game, and so just trying to like kind of play for the achievements or anything like that.
An ancient game where a kid can be a queen.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Pritika Svakumar, and we'll leave it tonight with the visuals of Fendi blooming with bold floral geometry in Milan. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Anuradhi Vikramasinghe will be joining you next with the Nightly Business Report. Thank you for watching. Have a very good night.